friends, welcome to another video. It is crazy to say, but it is already August, which is crazy because that means fall is almost here. Summer is almost over. What? That's crazy. But I'm here now that it's the end of a month to do my monthly wrap up and tell you guys about the books that I have read. And oh, you might see some of my chickies in the back. I hope you all had a wonderful July. Speaking of chickies, we also have some baby ducks that we unexpectedly kind of happened to take into a vlog. So I will post a little picture or video for you guys to see. We had them, they're wild duckies. Their mommy was killed unfortunately, and so we took the eggs and incubated them, and actually so now we have little ducks in our flock as well with our hens. Not at all book related, but thought you guys might appreciate the cute footage of the baby ducks. So we're just excited to have them, and you'll see some of my ladies maybe in the background. But if you didn't know, I'm also an avid chicken lady. So if we have not met, hi, welcome. My name is Tanya. I like to talk about books, and so that's why I have this channel. And I wanted to share with you the books that I read in July, and I honestly feel like I could just call this video the month of Rebecca Yarros, because I'm warning you guys, there's like pretty much 90%, 80% it's Rebecca Yarros books. Because I had tried Fourth Wing, I loved it, and then I was like, let me just try a little bit of something else, and then I was like, and I loved everything Rebecca Yarros, and then I'm here to tell you guys all about those books. So let's get into those books. And good news, if you do have Kindle Unlimited, pretty much all of these, a lot of these books are in Kindle Unlimited. So if you do have it, that's a great way, because I think pretty much all of them, I'll try to remember if they are and let you guys know if they are or not. Okay. So the first book that I read in July, but it's the second book actually in a Rebecca Yarros series that I mentioned in my June or like recent reads, my last recent reads video. It is part of the Flight and Glory series. It's book 2, and it is called Eyes Turned Skyward, and I think this one has been my favorite so far out of the whole series. And it follows the story of Paisley, and then I think it's Jagger. I don't know if that's how you say his name, but it's still within that realm of like flight school, military, / also random hockey thrown there as well. It's that whole world. So if those are things you're interested in, definitely check it out. But it follows the story of Paisley. She essentially has like a heart condition. Sorry if you guys see me glistening, it's hot here. So she has a heart condition, and it's similar to what her sister who passed away has it. And essentially it's kind of following her life right now as she is having this heart condition, and like kind of what she's navigating with having, like how she is navigating with having it. And then she happens to run into Jagger, I think is his name. He's the friend from the first book if you read it. And it's just kind of like their relationship and their romance. But again, as you will probably hear me say a lot of times with Rebecca Yarros' books, they are just like, they're so much more than just romances. They're very similar to Emily Henry's in a way to me, in that there's just more depth to them. They're just so great, and they're just, it's not just a fluffy romance. And I think that Rebecca Yarros does spice very well. It's not overly crazy for me personally, like my own preference, and I just really recommend the book in this series. So I give this one 4 out of 5, but I honestly kept thinking about it, and I think it might be a 5, like 4.5 out of 5. It's my favorite so far out of that whole series, but the Flight and Glory series definitely recommend. It does also have, like, she has a boyfriend, so it's kind of like forbidden kind of romance in a way, close proximity. It's really good, and I recommend it. And the next book I read right after, like within the same week, is the third book in the Flight and Glory series, which is called Beyond What Is Given, I believe. And it also follows some of the characters that again have been in the other books, which is really nice because you kind of start, it's kind of like a family concept, and you really start getting to know all the characters in the other books as well. So it's really nice in that way. And this one follows one of the other guys, like the friends. So it's Grayson, and he's a lieutenant as well. So he's within that whole like flight school, that whole world again. And it follows Sam, who is one of the friends. And Sam, she's just kind of struggling with feeling like a failure, and she just has like dropped out of college because something happened, which you find out more about. I don't want to give it away. and she's just struggling with feeling like a failure in life. And so she's kind of back and she's trying to kind of start her life over, get it together, while still dealing with what happened at the last college she was at. And then Grayson, this one is kind of an interesting story. He is really dealing with his past. Again, I don't want to give it away, but he's just kind of always had been really focused and just has things that keep connecting him back to his hometown, and so he's always gone. And you will start to realize kind of what's going on there in his history. And it's just, again, seeing their romance, seeing their friendship form. It's close proximity because they're roommates, so it's kind of like roommates to lovers in a way, but it's done really well. Again, there's just so many interesting topics discussed, and just different character development, and just the side characters as well, the families. So I really like it. I believe I gave it also 4 out of 5 stars. I really like this series, and I'm excited to read the last book in the series. And then the next Follow My Romance train, I read Icebreaker, which I had heard a lot about last year, and I guess I was curious about it, and I had borrowed it from a friend, and so I ended up reading it, and I gave it 3 out of 5 stars, I believe. And it follows, I mean, probably a lot of you know, but it's like a hockey, figure skater, romance, close proximity in a way. I don't know if I'd say they're enemies, but it definitely was, I gave it, 3.5. I said my favorite part of it was the side characters. So it's a college hockey figure skater kind of romance, and there's the house of the hockey players, and then I forget the girl's name, but oh yeah, Anastasia, she's like a figure skater. She's training. Basically something happens, and then she has to train with one of the hockey players. And my favorite part out of the book were actually the side characters, because I loved like meeting all like the guys in the house and the friends and just their relationships and stuff. That was my favorite. I don't know, I didn't like hate the romance between them, but I wasn't like, I think after Rebecca Yarros, other romance books in a way are kind of ruined for me. Like it was okay. The spice was a little bit, and like it was definitely spicier than I thought, and the cover was deceiving, which I've heard before, and now I understand what they're saying. It was just like a little bit different. I don't know, it wasn't like my favorite. It wasn't horrible, but I felt like I thought it was really hyped up, and it's not really, like, it was definitely not a 5 or even a 4-star read for me. So, but it was still really good. I guess I'm glad I read it, but I don't know if I'm going to continue with the series. But I really liked the side characters, like all the different hockey player guys in the house are just so funny and so sweet and just like goofy, and I really liked that part of the story. And then the next book that I read, this one is on Kindle Unlimited, and this one is called My Stubborn Heart by Becky Wade, I believe. And this follows the story, I'm terrible, you guys know with names, but it follows the story of Kate, and she is a social worker, but she's just kind of taken some time off work to go with her grandma to her grandma's like hometown. It's a small little town, to restore this like family home that's been in their family for generations. And then when she's there, they have a contractor who was like helping them fix it up and stuff in for the next couple months, whose name is Matt. And Matt happens to be a retired, well, he's not retired actually, but he quit professional like NHL hockey player. And there's kind of a spark of connection because Kate is single. She has been single her like basically a lot of her life, but she just never seems to find the right guy. And she's just really trying to find the right guy to like be with and be married and, you know, have life and live life together with. But she's kind of given up and kind of depths in despair about that. And then Matt, his wife had died, and so he lost his wife at a young age. Like they're both like I think in their 30s. And so it's just kind of following their story of kind of like redemption in a way in life and finding each other. It's just, I really liked it. I think I gave it 3.5. I felt like it was going really well. I got into the story. It's very kind of grumpy sunshine. He's kind of more grumpy. She's more sunshine. I loved like her grandmother and the other like senior citizens in the story were really great. They're so funny, like great side characters. I just felt like the ending was a little bit rushed for me. And that kind of was like, oh, like it ended well, but it just kind of felt rushed to me when like the rest of the flow of the story, if that makes sense. But this one is also on Kindle Unlimited, and like I said, I think I gave it 3.5, like 4 stars. The other 2 books, surprise, surprise, Rebecca Yarros books, but one of them is a 5-star read that I think I could not stop thinking about, I could not stop talking about, I could not stop crying about. I loved it. If you're going to read anything out of this month, please read this book. Please read it, please. It is The Things We Leave Unfinished. I kept seeing this a lot online. Also, I don't like that they put this, that it's been on TikTok, but I picked it up because, again, I was like, oh, Rebecca Yarros, I was intrigued. This has so many things that I love in a story. It's historical fiction. It's like dual timelines. It has technically like dual romances, so it's like present and also 1940s, like World War II time. It follows 2 separate love stories, like again, present and the 40s. It's so good. And just thinking about it, I like want to tear up. You guys, I just love this book. I'm an emotional person, but it takes a lot for me to like cry, and I should have taken a picture of myself, or like had my husband take a picture of me. I just was bawling. It's like a good cry. I don't know how to explain it. It breaks your heart in all the right ways, and I think it made me think of like a little bit of like Nightingale, if you ever read that, by Kristen Hanna. But it was even more, it had more of that romance, but it had that, if you are a historical fiction person, like you love historical fiction, like, I just think there's a right amount of like the romance, the spice. It's not too much, it's not overdone. The just family, a found family, it has to do with an author. I don't want to give too much away, but basically there is this woman named Georgia. She's 28 years old. And she just is kind of starting over. She just recently went through a divorce, but her grandmother who passed away is this like famous romance author, and who's written like a bunch of romance books. And so she has this last story or last transcript kind of thing that was never turned into a book, but it's based supposedly on the grandma's life, but it was, you know, left unfinished. And so she is kind of dealing with this guy Noah. He is a famous romance author, and he basically agrees, or like they're kind of trying to come up with a commitment for him to finish her grandmother's story, since obviously she passed away. So he's going to be kind of like a ghostwriter for her grandmother. But as they are kind of developing, like you're understanding their lives and reading into their lives, you're also reading through the letters, which I also love when there's letters. They're letters of her grandmother and the romance in that in the 1940s. It's so good, you guys. This is like one of my favorite books of the year. It did it for me. I love it so much, and I just could not. I feel like it's hard to trick me, and the ending I was like, oh, like really? So it was good. I love it. Please read it. So good. And then after that, I read The Last Letter. Oh, this is also on Kindle Unlimited. I just have the print copies because I got it before, but this is also on Kindle Unlimited. Rebecca Yarros again. It also has letters and has it in the name. This is also sad. This one was a 4 out of 5. I don't know, it just didn't hit the same for me as this one, but it's still so good. It follows the story of Beckett. So it's a lot of military. Beckett is in like the special forces with this guy named Ryan, and Ryan has a sister back in their hometown, their small hometown, named, what is her name? Ella. There we go. And Ella she's a single mom of twin kids, and Ryan basically ends up dying in action, like out in war, wherever they were. And Ryan leaves Beckett his last letter saying like, hey, I need you to go and take care of my sister and like just be there for her, support her, because basically if you got this letter, you know that I didn't make it, I died. And so like right away it starts out on a punch, but just like it has all these letters too. So if you love letters, this has letters in it. It has romance. It talks about dealing with trauma, single mom, close proximity, kind of marriage of convenience, like so many different things in this. He like loves her and she doesn't know, kind of mistaken identity, so many, a few different things, but it is sad, but good at the same time, kind of like a redemption quality in a way, sad, but I still really recommend it. 4 out of 5, so good. The last two books, which also were 5 stars. I feel like this month was amazing. Like I usually never have that many 5-star reads. The next one that I read was Divine Rivals. I know this has been gaining like a lot of popularity, and with due respect, I totally get it. This is also on Kindle Unlimited. I don't have a physical copy, but I really am think I'm gonna hopefully get one. But I love this one. Very similar, like it just has all the right things that I love. It's like historical fiction. I believe it's 18 something, I can't remember, but it's historical fiction. It has some elements of fantasy, magical typewriters. It has letters. I love things with letters, if you have not figured that out. And it just has all those things, like character development is so good. Like the fantasy, the balance is so good. It's not like high fantasy. It's just so good. And that ending, okay, like I am waiting for that second one. I cannot wait to get the second book. It comes out in December. But if you're wondering what it's about, it's kind of like a rivals workplace, but also not, but basically there are these rivals, and his name is Kit. Oh, it's between Kate and Winnow, and they are journalists, and basically what's happening in their time is that there are these two gods that went to war, and they are in the middle of a wartime, and so they are correspondents, and so they end up becoming, at first they're you know, like rivals, workplace rivals. But in the meantime, Winnow is communicating. She has this typewriter and she's sending letters, and there's someone communicating, like a different boy, man, someone is answering her. And so it's like a magical typewriter kind of system. And she ends up, like, it's just so cool. So there's these letters. I recommend it, highly recommend it. It's so good. 5 out of 5 for me. I loved it, and I think you will too if you love any like letters. Like I said, letters, fantasy, romance. Just, it's so good. It's written so well, and the words are just beautiful. The communication, the relationship, like again, just the words are beautiful. Like, you know, if you can explain, like the writing is just, it's beautiful. Like it's good to read. Like it's good to read for your soul, how it's written, how things are said. So good. Please read it. And then the last book, oh my goodness, I'm gonna like toast here, but the last book before I melt is called The Bird. I can't remember names. The Bird and the Sword. And I was excited to read this because this is by the same author that wrote one of my favorite books, The First Girl Child. I read that a few years back. It was one of my favorite books, and I decided to read it again. This one is also on Kindle Unlimited, and I loved it. I'm excited. It's a duology. I'm going to read the second book hopefully in August, and it follows the story of Lark. And again, it has a little bit elements of fantasy. It's in a world where there are people that are the gifted, and they're basically not allowed to be in society, but obviously they are. And so this girl Lark, she is a teller, so when she says things, her words, like they happen. She can make things happen with her words. But she something happens when she's younger, and so she's not able to speak or use her words, and she was kept from learning how to read and write. And this one, then later it follows her as she's older now as an adult, and she is essentially, I wouldn't say kidnapped, but she's maybe in a way, I don't know, but taken to be with the king of their kingdom. And so she is there, and so it's kind of, you'll see like their friendship develops, relationship develops, and it's just so good. Again, it has elements of just like fantasy, but it's not super crazy high fantasy. It's a world that's easy to follow, like magic that's easy to follow. But I love this one because again, it just has to also do with the power of words. It's just written beautifully, and I love that Lark, the main character, like her growth. It's just so good, and I really just love so far the things that I've read by this author. It's just a good fantasy romance. I just really enjoyed it, and I am excited. I really want to get hopefully a print copy of this. It's on my Christmas list if people ask, because I do want to have her books in print. I enjoyed this one, and like I said, I'm going to be reading the second one, so definitely recommend. I gave this one a 5 out of 5 as well. So good. So there you have it, my month of Rebecca Yarros / Kindle Unlimited reading, because pretty much all those books were on Kindle Unlimited. Thank you guys so much for watching. Happy reading this August. As always, share down below, please, what are you currently reading? What maybe were your best or your worst books of the month? I'd love to hear, and Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye everyone.